Your microphones are turned off to start. You will need to unmute to speak. If you're joining via phone, press 6 to unmute yourself later during the discussion. You can also use nonverbal feedback options. Just raise your hand or leave a message in the chat box if you have a question. If you called into the meeting on your phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. All right, next slide. All right, I'll hand it over to Stephanie now.
Well, hello, my name is Stephanie Seskin. I'm the Active Transportation Director here in the Boston Transportation Department, and I manage the Slow Streets program overall. Two people on the team are vital to keeping this particular project moving on a day-to-day basis. That's Hannah Fong and Dan Marrow. Would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone. I am Hannah. I will answer many of your emails, and if you were part of previous conversations, you probably saw me out on the street. And then Dan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Marrow. I'm a professional engineer working in the Active Transportation Department with Stephanie and Hannah, and I will be handling more of the technical questions tonight. And otherwise, I'm just here in the background.
We're also joined by Connor and Will from Kittleson and Associates. They are our consultants on this project. They're just opting to wave, but you'll hear from them throughout this process too. Thank you everyone for joining. We're here to talk about the Hancock Street Triangle Zone. This includes all of the streets on your screen that are highlighted in blue. Generally, the zone is bounded by Columbia Road, Hancock Street, Bowdoin Street, and Quincy Street. We have a pretty packed agenda for this evening, hopefully some really good discussion. We'll start things off by just reviewing what we've done so far for those who are new to the program. We have some updates on what you can expect to see throughout the zone. We'll talk about the redesign for Bellevue and Troll. We will also discuss street direction changes for Stanley and Bellevue. And then we'll give you an update on our next steps and how you can stay involved. So Neighborhood Slow Streets is the City of Boston's comprehensive traffic calming program. We focus on improving safety in a connected network of small neighborhood streets. We build design changes to improve safety and slow speeds. And within the zone, we post a speed limit of 20 miles per hour. So the way we approach design is maybe a little different than what you have experienced with other projects. Engaging you, our residents, is so important to us in making sure that we are designing changes that will improve your everyday life. Through our design process, we prioritize people who are walking and biking, older adults, youth, and people with disabilities. And we aim to reduce crashes that lead to serious injury or fatality. This is yet another engagement moment in this process so far. We started out by mailing out letters and survey questions. We had an interactive online survey that was open through December. We had an outdoor workshop in September. We held a virtual meeting in April, and we collected additional feedback after that meeting through our online feedback form, through the phone calls that you've had with Hannah, and emails back and forth for the most part. So we're building on what we have all been working on together for the last year, starting with your letters, your comments, and our observations and those design concepts that we shared with you in April. Since then, we've accepted additional comments on those design concepts, and we've done our initial engineering review, which is resulting in the initial design that you're going to see this evening. Through Neighborhood Slow Streets, we look at both general concerns that affect a number of streets and focus areas. I'm going to start with changes that you can expect to see throughout the zone. So first, on all of the entryways to your neighborhood, we will be posting these signs that let people know that they're in a slow zone. Below that is the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit sign. And then we add supplemental 20-mile-per-hour pavement markings. Tonight, we're very excited to share the streets that we are considering for speed humps, which will help slow traffic through on all of these streets. We have not selected locations yet. However, you can expect that they will be placed approximately every 150 to 250 feet. They will not be in front of a driveway, and they have no impact on on-street parking. A reminder that speed humps are not speed bumps. The speed humps have a gradual taper up and down over 12 to 14 feet. This is different than what you might see in a parking lot or elsewhere, which are much more abrupt and small. Speed humps are comfortable at 20 miles per hour. Speed bumps are more like a 5 mile per hour or a total stop. That's not our intention with this program. When we plan for speed humps, we take into account 3 key considerations. So the first is hills. We can't put speed humps on streets that are too steep. We don't want people to go flying in the air when they're coming down a hill. It may be fun, but it's probably not effective for safety. Second, we look at the curvature of the street. So we can't put speed humps too close to a curve or on a curve, in part because drivers won't be able to see them in advance. And if they hit them going a little too fast, maybe it could result in a crash that we don't want to see. So we avoid curves. We also take into account the needs of emergency responders, our fire trucks, police officers, and EMS, so ambulances. So we follow guidance from our emergency responders to plan how many speed humps we put in any zone and on any one route through the zone. What we're trying to do is balance the need for everyday safety on your street and slower speeds with minimizing any additional delay for those types of emergencies. So on this map, these are the streets that we are considering for speed humps in your zone. Areas that are in blue indicate potential speed hump segments. Segments that are in white are not eligible for speed humps because of the factors that I just mentioned related to hills and curves. We will go through the design review process with a number of agencies and departments. and it may result in some speed humps not being placed on some streets. However, for the most part, you can see many of the streets and many of the segments of those streets are eligible for speed humps. I just want to draw your attention first to this curve on Payson, to this stretch of Glen Street, this bit of Troll Street, and the entrance to Fernald Terrace. Those are the segments that are not eligible for speed humps.
Yeah, and just for the people on the phone, that's the hilly parts on Chul Street between Bellevue and Ware Street, Glen Street between Glendale and Chul Street, and the hill, the curve in the street on Payson Avenue between Hancock Street.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah.
So at a future meeting, we will be able to share the exact locations that we're proposing speed humps, including the address of the parcel or house that's closest, so that you can get into the details a little bit more. But this was definitely something that you all wanted to chat about in our April meeting. So I'm excited to share that almost every part of your neighborhood is eligible. All right, let's move into the first focus area for this zone, which is the intersection of Bellevue and Troll. So we're focusing here because of feedback that we got from you. You told us that it doesn't feel safe to cross the street, that people turn too fast, that people are parking in places they shouldn't be parking, that it's hard to see other people crossing the street at the intersection, and that Bellevue Street south of Troll just feels too narrow to operate safely as a two-way street. Our main interventions at this area are curb extensions and raised crosswalks. A curb extension creates a shorter crossing. It's where we extend the sidewalk into the street. This also provides a space to build an accessible curb ramp, which is great for people with mobility disabilities, as well as anyone who is pushing a stroller, has a kid on a scooter, or is pulling a grocery cart. Raised crosswalks are crosswalks that are at the same level as the sidewalk. They slow drivers down and make it easier to see people crossing. On the left, you'll see the concept that we shared with you in April. Since then, we've done our engineering review and have an initial design proposal, which is on the right side of the screen. I'm going to go through some of the changes since we shared the concept design. They're pretty minor. So first, to meet accessibility requirements for our sidewalk space, a small portion of the curb extension adjacent to the park will not be walkable. It will be built at a slightly higher height. And I have an example on the screen from a curb extension in Dorchester that shows you how we sort of differentiate the areas that are for walking and the areas that are not. The second change is that we cannot build the curb extension on Bellevue Street south of the raised crosswalk. What we found is that the utilities underground are right in the locations where we would want to put the curb, which prevents us from doing that. However, we know that you're frustrated with people parking there. So we're proposing using pavement markings and flexible delineator posts to help prevent that kind of behavior. So those are the major changes here. Actually, I think Hannah, if anyone has a question, if you could raise your hand so we can talk about this a little bit more. Again, very similar to what we had previously. All right, we have a few questions. Hannah, do you want to take this? Great. You're muted, Hannah.
Yes. So I'm gonna unmute you, and you'll see a button that says ask to unmute. Okay.
You should be unmuted now.
Who are you calling, Anna?
You. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I just want to check the direction. I'm a resident of Ronan Street. Is Ronan Street up to coming into Ronan Street? Is that a one-way in or is still a two-way up to that location?
That's a great question. And we actually haven't determined that yet. We're going to go through an exercise with you next to talk about what direction these streets should be and what parts should be one way and what parts should be two-way. So the design allows for either one.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great question.
Okay, Hannah.
Yes. Yes.
This is Marty Glenn.
Mhm.
I was looking at Payson Avenue on this map, and I understand your concern about streets that are curved, but the section where cars are most likely to speed up on Payson Avenue is actually after the curve going into the straightaway down to Hancock Street. And if a speed hump was placed, further down, I wish I could do that with your arrow, further down on Payson Avenue, somewhat closer to Hancock Street, but obviously not right at the intersection, people would still have plenty of time to realize that that's coming. It's not going to, they won't see it, immediately after they make the curve, but they will slow down in anticipation of it, and it will alleviate the problem we have with speeding. The other end of Payson Avenue actually has a slight incline coming into it from Glendale Street. So people are turning, they aren't going that fast, and then they don't really have a chance to get up a lot of speed. It would be nice to have both of these speed humps, would be great. But if we have to choose one or the other, the stretch going down to Hancock Street is the more dangerous one.
Yeah, actually that is marked as this area where speed humps are eligible. Sorry, it's not very clear
I couldn't
on the map.
tell.
Yeah, so the places that you just mentioned coming off of Glendale, that incline, we can't put a speed hump there, but then there's a stretch right after that we could.
Great.
The curve, we can't, but then after that we could.
Awesome.
So
That's
hopefully
true.
we make your dreams come true with 2 speed humps.
You always do. Thank you so much.
And there was also a question about Hancock Street and speed humps. Stephanie, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So the question in the chat says, will Hancock Street get any speed humps? People are always flying down there. So unfortunately, we don't put speed humps on streets like Hancock Street because they have higher traffic volumes. There's more bus traffic, both MBTA buses and school buses. And because it's a major street, we have to take into consideration the need for emergency responders to move quickly. So on Hancock Street, we are looking at some crosswalk improvements, which we'll be talking about later, but it won't get any speed humps. There's another question in the chat. Will Trent Street have a speed hump? There is a person that seems to have a bike fixing business. So that is one of the streets that we are looking at for potential speed humps. As part of the network of streets down there, we certainly don't want anyone to be picking up speed on that street just because it's small. Yeah, I can't do much about the noise, but hopefully they'll go slower and maybe that will be a little bit quieter. Okay. So we have another question in the chat about Bellevue Street, street direction. So we will talk about that just in a minute. We'll have a full conversation. We'll draw on a map and think through what is possible. The design that we have for Bellevue at Troll will work no matter what direction the streets are. We have to keep a certain minimum width on our streets and allow for fire trucks to turn. So the design that we're showing on the screen tonight will not change regardless of what direction the streets are. And with that, I suspect that people are ready to talk about making Stanley and Bellevue streets a pair of one-way streets. We've heard from so many people that this is desirable. We've heard people who would like Bellevue Street to be one-way towards Quincy, but we've also heard from folks who wanted us to look at what happens if Stanley Street is switched. So Stanley Street is coming up from Quincy and Bellevue down, or vice versa. So I'm going to hand the screen over to Will, who's going to walk us through the different options for how we can change the street direction right here.
All right. Hello, everyone. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, as Stephanie was alluding to, we've looked through a couple of options based off of the comments and the feedbacks we've received so far, and wanted to show 4 to you all this evening to get some feedback and thoughts on it. As Stephanie mentioned, we haven't made a decision on this. This is what we want to talk about tonight to see from the neighborhood's feeling if one option has a higher preference over the others, with still meeting the desires of the Slow Streets program to provide safer streets for all users. So with this first option that we have here, Stanley Street would be switched from one-way southbound to one-way northbound, and Bellevue Street would switch from two-way to one-way southbound down to Quincy. There were comments earlier in this meeting about Ronan Street and how access would be on Ronan Street with this. So that's definitely, we can work through that, as well as Trull Street and how access would continue to the north, as well as to and from the health center. So, in this example, this alternative here, where currently Ronan Street is accessed off of Bellevue Street from Quincy, with this configuration, we would use Stanley Street and loop around to access Ronan. Exiting Ronan Street, if we were going to go to the north towards Columbia, instead of today, how we would take Bellevue Street, we would head south down to Quincy Street and then up Columbia Street. Access to Trull Street would be a little different than today, where it would also utilize Stanley Street. Similarly, access to the health center would utilize Stanley Street. And exiting would use Bellevue Street. Before we go on to the next option, I guess, are there any questions about additional turning movements with this configuration?
We have an actual hand raise. Grace? You'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. You said that from Columbia Road, you're gonna make that from Bellevue Street going straight up. And I live on Ronan Street. So when I come out of Ronan Street, I see you changed it that I guess you're gonna be going south or north there on Bellevue Street. So, I mean, that's okay, but on Ronan Street, when I come out, I want to be able to make that right turn and go down Bellevue Street. I don't want to have to be coming up Bellevue Street. I mean, since I can't, I use them now, I use both ways. Okay.
Okay.
So now you're going to tell me that I'm going to have to come out of Ronan Street, because Ronan Street is a dead end street. If I could go out the back way, I would, but I can't. So you saying that I'm gonna come out of Ronan Street and the only way that I can exit is the left. No, I don't want that.
So if Bellevue Street was changed to one way, which is what lots of people have said, this is, and if we decided on this,
Well, I think it should be one
configuration.
way. I think that it should be one way coming from Quincy Street.
Okay, so we're gonna show a number of different options for what things would look like, what things would change with different types of street directions. Okay.
Yes.
So does Stephanie, do you want to go to the next one to show?
Can we just call
Yeah.
on Dee Dee quickly? She doesn't have the raise hand feature in her Zoom. So if you could ask her to unmute.
Hello.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. My response to this option that you laid out is problematic because of the amount of traffic onto Quincy Street. It is very dangerous to go up Bellevue south, as you've shown, and to take a left or a right. Sometimes the traffic is backed onto Quincy Street to Columbia Road, going all the way down to Bowdoin. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that one of the reasons why we wanted Bellevue Street to make some changes is, and certainly not this, because of the danger in exiting Bellevue Street onto Quincy. It is very dangerous. You cannot see clearly. You have to go out into the road. And yes, because it's a two-way, that makes it a little difficult. Also, it complicates it. But even if it weren't a two-way street, exiting onto Quincy is very dangerous. I hardly ever exit that way because of it. I live at the corner of Bellevue and Ronan, and I use Ronan Street because our driveway is on Ronan Street. And I always exit Ronan Street 99.9% of the time. I take a right because it is so dangerous to exit onto Quincy Street, whether you take a left or a right. So I just wanted to make that comment as it relates to this option that you've shown.
Got it. Michael, would you like to?
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, I just had a question about the traffic from Columbia Road up Bellevue. And in this configuration here, it seems like, I mean, there's a lot of traffic already on that section of Bellevue from Columbia Road up to, say, Trell or where Bellevue turns. And I know, looking at this, I'm just afraid that this would increase the traffic even more in that section. I could be wrong, but that was my gut feeling right away looking at it.
Helpful. All right. Will, do you want to show the next one?
Sure. So the next one is rather similar. You know, we're still showing Bellevue having a stretch of one way to the south towards Quincy, but we are providing or maintaining a little bit more of a two-way section through here to improve some of the access. So, you know, looking at, you know, access to Ronan Street from Quincy would be similar to before, where we would loop around using Stanley. But then exiting, you would have the ability to exit either direction.
So this option resolves you will not have to go to Quincy when you leave Ronan Street, but it will still have the issue that was brought up earlier about exiting Bellevue onto Quincy.
Yeah, at this intersection here.
We have a person on the phone who has raised their hand. There you go. Great.
Hi, my name is Kathy, and I live at 26 12th Street, and I agree with everyone who said that making Bellevue go out one way towards Quincy is not safe at all. I don't drive that way because I'm going down the one way, but even when I coming on to that is much easier than going out that way. And I think the way Stanley Street is perfect. And I'm not quite sure why. I didn't even understand how Charles Street is even going to be accessed. So I mean, I didn't understand that anyway. But I think the way it is right now, with Stanley going out that one way and coming off of Quincy down Bellevue, is much easier. And why not keep that little stretch that goes out Bellevue down the way it is off of Columbia Road two-way? I'm not quite sure why you wanted to. I really understand.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
on the
because you're on
phone,
the
so
phone.
I didn't
Yeah.
understand why you want to change it and make Bellevue completely one way.
Oh, no.
I don't
So
think.
it would only be, so at one of our opportunities to talk with people before this meeting, someone asked us to look at, well, what if Stanley Street were switched? So Stanley was coming off of Quincy Street. So that's how you would get to
That's the way it used to be before, but
Yeah.
that was very dangerous. And there was lots of accidents because people were speeding down there and coming through. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that either, because that means I have to drive 2 blocks down and go up to that light and come around Quincy and come down. And it's a lot of traffic got that way. I think it's easier the way it is, keeping it just exactly the way it is right there, and making Bellevue one way off of Quincy coming down straight towards Trull that way and turning the way it already is. And then because the traffic actually, when you're driving on Bellevue coming off of Quincy, coming back down towards Trull, there is more traffic going the other way that seems to cause the problem when the people are trying to get out to Quincy Street that way. And I think it would be easier for them to go up and make that turn to Stanley and go out to Quincy if they want to go down that way, or go straight out the way you can go out, onto Columbia Road. Because the traffic and that little stretch of Columbia between Bellevue and going up to Quincy Street, the amount of traffic that's there, it would take you, like at certain times of the day, it could take you 10 minutes to get around and come back down, depending on, like everyone was saying, the traffic that comes on Quincy Street is a lot too.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda?
Oh,
Hi, Linda.
hi. My name's Linda Warren Cato, and I live right on Bellevue Street, right in the middle. And we are very much one of those families that are advocating for Bellevue Street to become one way. It is dangerous for me to come. I'm at 30, which is right in the middle of the block. And so just trying to get out of my driveway to go either way is problematic. So my first question is, the way that this slide number 2 is Bellevue Street still two-way coming from Columbia Road till you get to the big yellow house?
Yes.
And then the signage would make it one way, whichever way people decide, that would, going forward, it would be one way. Okay, well, I am an advocate of that. I realize that, you know, change is hard, but I've been on this street for over 30 years. I'm not as long as the Burrells, but I've been here over 30 years, and this two-way moment, or this two-way situation, is really, truly dangerous. It's out of control. It's really, really difficult for all of us that live on this stretch of Bellevue to maneuver safely. And so whatever change needs to happen, I cannot be a strong enough advocate for it to happen. So at this point, I'm comfortable with slide number 2 versus slide number 1, but I look forward to seeing slides number 3 and 4.
Fantastic. Why don't we just show those slides quickly, and then we'll come back to questions and feedback.
Good.
You know what? The people that are making this plan.
So in this configuration, Stanley Street remains the same as existing, and Bellevue Street does become one-way northbound until we get to past the park here. So access to Ronan would be off of Quincy, and then all exits from Ronan would be to the north, running to the light on Columbia, or taking Troll out.
As well as Stanley Street to Quincy.
Yes, as well as Stanley to Quincy. Thank you. You know, and access to Troll Street, if people do access off of Bellevue today, you would have diversion down to Quincy, and then up Bellevue to Troll.
And the fourth option?
So the fourth option adds a stretch of two-way around the park and mitigates some of the diversion that we just were discussing. So, you know, all access to Ronan Street could take place coming off of Columbia or off of Quincy. And then leaving, there's multitude of options. And similarly, access to Troll can be off of Bellevue from Quincy or off of Columbia.
All right. Dee Dee's hand is still raised. If we can unmute her.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay,
ahead.
thank you so much again. I just want to thank you all for your diligence and hard work in putting these options together. I remember when you came out to the community and we had a meeting last September in the open space. Till now is really impressive. So I just want to say thank you for. I want to say that this fourth option, in my opinion, is the best option and the safest option because one, we want to make sure that people are not exiting Bellevue Street onto Quincy. And other people have echoed it, I can't echo it enough. It is really dangerous. It is safer to exit, to proceed on Quincy Street and to exit onto Quincy from Stanley Street. It is actually safer than exiting from Bellevue Street. I think this option is also good because it doesn't create more traffic that's needed coming down Bellevue. So if you made Bellevue Street one way from Quincy all the way to Columbia Road, you're going to have all of that health center traffic, both employees and patients being forced to come down Bellevue, which is going to increase the amount of traffic on the street. So having Bellevue Street one way from Quincy to Ronan, and then having Bellevue Street two ways from Columbia Road up to Ronan, I think is the best option. And it eliminates a lot of the problems that we have on the Bellevue Street side between Quincy and Ronan, while allowing access for people that live on Ronan and Troll and the lower part of Bellevue Street, some flexibility there. We want to minimize the amount of traffic coming down Bellevue Street from Quincy because they speed down there, right? They speed down there. So they'll still have the ability to go from Quincy Street to Columbia Road, but it will be less congested because it won't be two-way in that stretch, in addition to the fact that there'll be those speed hills or speed humps, etc. But it wouldn't increase the amount of traffic coming down Bellevue. So I just wanted to say that to me, this is the best option, and to thank you for your work.
Thanks, Dee Dee. Ajibola?
Thank you. And obviously, I live on Ronan, and the option 4 is the best option so far. And we can as well agree that your option 1 is a dud. Anything that comes straight to Quincy is a non-starter. And if you give us off Ronan and you restrict our access, that would be a non-starter too. So your option 4 seems to be the best. And I thank you. That means you did listen, but I'm surprised you didn't put that as your option 1 rather than option 4, because this is what we want, not the last 2-3 things you've shown us. Thank you very much.
Understood. It's got to get the conversation going, you know?
I guess you saved the best for last.
That's true.
We want to keep it exciting, you know?
All right, Michael.
Yes, I want to agree. Option 4 seems to be the best thing that I can see. Stanley Street, in the direction it's going now, I can remember when Stanley Street was a two-way. Having it go south the way it is now has eliminated an awful lot of problems with speed and everything. This option 4 seems to take care of the people on the south part of Bellevue that have concerns about coming and going. It takes care of the people on Ronan Street. It satisfies, like Kathy on Troll Street. To me, this is a great option that combines with the other designs you had, the raised crosswalk and the extensions of the sidewalk. I think this would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks. Going back to the phone.
Hi, this is Kathy again, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry I didn't get to go to your meeting, so I didn't really know too much what was going to happen tonight. But I agree with everyone about option 4. I think it would be the best one, and the other things that you were talking about the sidewalk and everything too, because I really think it. I don't walk too much in that area. I usually walk down to Hancock, but I think that it can be dangerous, especially when people are coming around that curve. So thank you for all your work, and I hope that option 4 is the one that ends up getting picked. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. I'm going to give it just a minute to see if anyone who's shy wants to chime in. There we go. Linda. Linda, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I just have a question. Are these slides going to be available on the website so that I can share them with other people? I sent a bunch of my family down to the open air meeting, but unfortunately they're all at work, but I really want to show them the results of their input.
Absolutely.
Thank
We'll be putting the slides online as well as the recording of the meeting.
Thank you.
I love an easy question.
I noticed Grace had her hand up as well. I don't know if you still want to
Oh, I
add
didn't
something.
see that.
I did. I just wanted to say that this is this option that you have on the screen now is the one that we had picked when you came up. I don't know if it was you, not blaming you, but when you came out to the meeting before last year, and this is the option that we was talking about. It's the one that you have on the stream now. So I think that this is the one that we should go with.
Okay. Yeah, we just got to do our work to make sure that we've looked at all the options. So thank you. Dee Dee would like to chime in again. Hannah is so ably unmuting people.
Yes. All right, go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. So when you look at, I know that you said earlier in the presentation that irrespective of the street direction, whether it be one or two way, this is on Bellevue now, that the curb extensions and the raised sidewalks would remain the same. My only concern about option number 4 is absolutely hands down my vote. However, when you look at the curb extension across from number 20 Bellevue Street, and if that portion is going to be two-way, narrowing that part of Bellevue Street with a curb extension would not be my recommendation. Now, I don't know how you address the safety issue, which would be in front of the entrance to the Stanley Bellevue Park and across from 20 Bellevue Street. If that is going to continue as a two-way, that extension would maybe cause people to have to pull over in order to go by, more so than they're doing right now. So I would just ask that you would really consider where that crosswalk is at the corner of Troll, which I understand Troll Street, and that extension at the corner of Bellevue and Troll, but across the street where the park is, all of that extension is going to cause a narrowing of the roadway and therefore issues with that two-way traffic coming around that corner into Ronan Street or Troll Street. So if you're coming down Bellevue and you go left towards Columbia Road, it's one thing if it's one way, but if that's two way, I would just be cautious as to how that will impact driving. And I don't know how that would impact driving. Where right where that crosswalk is right there, that's going to be two way, and so just consider, you know,
Sure.
that.
Dan, do you
all.
want to take this?
Sure. Your average vehicle is somewhere in the vicinity of 7, maybe 8 feet wide. That opening will be 20 feet wide, so two vehicles can pass each other comfortably. The reason we narrow it is to slow speeds as you come around the corner. The more space we give vehicles, the faster they go. So these lanes are narrowed to make people go slower, but they are left wide enough that you never have to be in another lane with a car going the other way. So we hear you, but this will have the safety impacts we're looking for of slowing people turning, but still not forcing people to share a lane going opposite directions.
Can I just ask you guys, thank you for your answer, to come and drive the neighborhood? So that technically may be the specs that when you're laying out the street, we need X and we need Y, but the reality of driving the street, I would just ask that you come and literally drive it. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be there. I'm just saying the extent of, well, how far it is extended, that not only should you take into whatever technical specs that you like to use, but the reality of driving it. Like, come into the neighborhood when there's heavy traffic in the afternoon going home or in the morning. Come into the neighborhood when during the day when you have a lot of patients and staff members coming to the health center where the road is being used as a two-way, so that you experientially understand the impact of the changes that we're wanting to make. Yes, it's easy to say that, but even now, when I'm driving, when I take a right out of Ronan and I go down Columbia Road, or if I choose to go down Troll, and there is a car that is coming up Columbia Road, we have to slow down or stop to allow each other to go around. And so it's not, even now, it's not like a smooth, I'm gonna go out onto take a right onto Bellevue from Ronan and then continue down Columbia Road and not really be concerned about the car coming in the opposite direction. I'm always concerned because there is a stop there. There is some slowdown there already. And I hear you about why this option to slow cars down, but it also may cause even more congestion. So I just ask that you come and drive the neighborhood and to really experience what we're experiencing and then apply what your engineering would call for. That's all. It's really different when you come into the neighborhood and drive it.
Understood.
That's all.
Thanks, Dee Dee.
Mhm.
Michael, you had your hand up.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
am I ready? I live on the corner of Bellevue and Trell in the big house that is at this intersection. And we've acquiesced to all our neighbors with number 4, and I think it's great. But if the whole idea is to slow people down and to make it safer for everybody, then definitely you need to extend these curbs. And I just wanted to put that in there. It's, you know, the whole idea, you're getting a one way, then you're going to have to slow down when it comes to these two ways. And you're going to have, everyone's going to just have to be careful. And then it's going to slow people down when they get onto Trull and go down. So I think we're all going to have to just say, you know, we're going to have to work within the frame, within the framework. And if, like the gentleman said, if you've actually left enough space for 2 lanes, which obviously you know your business, then we're all going to have to just slow down and really work within it. And that's all I wanted to say. My property had been hit many, many times. The last thing I wanted was Stanley Street to change direction. And it was done on purpose for insurance fraud with cars. We don't have that problem now by making streets one way and slowing everyone down. And yet where I live, I'm still gonna have the two-way traffic from everybody, which I'm willing to do, which we're, willing to do to make it better for all of our neighbors. But I do think we do need to extend these things out the way you have them, and people are either going to have to almost stop or really be conscious, so there won't be any accidents or problems. And that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a quick question in the chat that I'm going to do right now, because it's just, how will the narrowing of the street impact snow removal? So it will all be the same as it is today. We will coordinate with our public works team on any changes to street direction so that your trash, recycling, snow plowing happens, and everyone is aware. But the streets are wide enough, and we always take into consideration where the snow will go and how drivers will be moving through an area. With that, Will, you had your hand up next, so you're on.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, I guess actually my question does relate to the snow removal. And so, I mean, first, I guess, because you've implemented the slow zone in other parts of the city, I was curious about, the question of snow removal, the question of BPS buses, and how they kind of, how agile they are at navigating these things. I guess the third question, so I'm just curious whether you've kind of learned any lessons from neighborhoods that where you've already implemented this. I guess the third question would be, I mean, the wider sidewalks are nice for cars, but if the Public Works Department isn't actually shoveling them, they'll have no benefits for the community come winter. So I guess I'm curious how that works.
Sure. So I think the main lesson that we have learned with the Slow Streets program so far is that speed humps are fine. No one really has a problem with them. We communicate well in advance with our snowplow teams so that they know which streets have speed humps. All the speed humps are well signed so that even when there's snow on the ground, the plow drivers know to expect the speed hump and they can lift their plow blade slightly. We've had no issues with BPS. A lot of times, actually, the conversations we have with them is grateful for speed humps around their schools, and happy that their students are going to be safer as they're traveling to and from school. As for snow removal is the responsibility of the abutting property owner. So if it's your property, you have to clear the minimum required, which I believe is 48 inches on all sides of your property. If there are sidewalks on both sides or three sides even. If it's next to a park that is owned by the Boston Parks District, the Park District is responsible for clearing the snow around parks. Schools are responsible for clearing snow, et cetera, et cetera. So it is, I understand that there are a lot of desires for Public Works to do more snow removal on sidewalks. But at this point in time, it is the responsibility of the property owner to clear, and that will not change.
Sure.
I think the other piece that I would just like to mention is that even though we all know how bad it got 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago, with the back-to-back snowstorms, the reality is that we have very few days in the city compared to the overall year where our sidewalks are completely impassable. And so the benefits of this type of work is for many more days than when we have snow. And yes, snow has mobility issues. People with disabilities have a hard time getting around. I'm with you on all of that, but I think overall we're good.
And yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, so part of what I infer from that is the Stanley Bellevue Park is under the Parks Department, because that's where the sidewalks are becoming widest. And I mean, quite honestly, I could imagine the plows putting snow onto that wide sidewalk, given the narrowness of the street.
That actually would probably make it easier to clear the sidewalk next to the park, because a lot of times what we see is sort of a fight between the snow getting pushed from the street and the snow that people are clearing from the sidewalks. So this actually gives us even more space for snow storage to happen for those few days when we need it.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We have a bunch more hands up. It's 8:08. So I just want to make sure that we're moving through. So if you do have a question, please make sure that your hand is up right now, and we'll be sure to get to you before we close out. So Michael M., you are up next.
Yes, I won't keep much of your time. I just want to say, no, the sidewalk extensions, I think, are essential, because the whole idea of this project is to slow traffic and make it safer. I know a lot of people have problems if you're coming north on Bellevue and somebody's coming up the other direction from Columbia Road and they're going to Trull. But I mean, that's law enforcement. I mean, I learned that 60 years ago in driving school. The person to the right at a three-way intersection, the person on the right has the right of way. If you're on the left, you stop and let them go. It's that simple. And again, thank you for all your help. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda, you're up.
Historically, the way that the snowplow people do is they end up dumping all the snow right around the park that comes out of Ronan Street, and it all collects right there. So that's why my big concern is about the snow removal piece. Are you saying that the snowplow people are now going to dump the snow on this bigger, wider sidewalk so that the streets will really be clear? If that's what you're saying, then I'm okay. But if that's not the case, then again, I'm back to how is this really going to work? Because people really truly dump all, I should say the plow people dump all that snow right around the park at the end of Ronan Street.
Yeah, I can't promise what the plow drivers will or won't do. We are giving them space, more space for snow storage. That doesn't mean that the street will be perfectly clear. You know, when we design streets, we definitely take into account, you know, where is the snow going to go on those days when there's plows. So it will be slightly narrower, and we know that coming out the gate. So we do try to plan around that for those few days of the year where it's like that. Dan, did you want to say anything more?
The streets will have enough space to deal with general snowfall events. We design them that way. There'll be enough room. That's the answer. It'll be okay.
I mean, again, we can't promise that everyone is going to be their best snowplow driver that day, but we do take that into account when we design.
Yeah, and I just want to add that we do coordinate with other departments, especially Public Works, and that manages street sweeping and snow removal. So part of the process of neighborhood slow streets, which Stephanie will share in the next slide or in future slides, is that we have to go through a review process and make sure. So these plans right now are just ideas, and the engineering work to make them feasible they haven't been solidified. Part of the process of going to construction is conversing and showing these plans to other departments within the city. And one of the key things that other departments do have are some of the very concerns that you have too about street sweeping and snow removal and lanes that are traversable by vehicles, especially large vehicles, not just your single vehicles. And I also want to just bring this back to why we are showing this intersection in the first place. So when we heard that this intersection was confusing, people's speed around the corner, and the approach of extending the curb, that is, it's called we're geometrically changing the street. So we're squaring off the corner of the street. So as it is now, it's not a straight 90-degree angle. The streets don't meet at right angles. Most streets if we would design a perfect street, we would not design a street with a intersection that is so angled and wide, because that does encourage speeding. So what we're trying to do is just modify that corner of the street so that it looks more like other streets in the city and is more predictable. And the other thing is that we need to add more accessible crosswalks. We do need more space to be able to make the curb ramp accessible for people on wheelchairs, because you need the slope to be enough space to create a shallow slope so that if you're in a wheelchair, you don't just slide into the street if you're about to cross. So those are some of the considerations that go, yeah.
All right.
But I will stop talking.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Dee Dee ask her final question, and then I'll go into what's next.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to say, clarify my comment, to come into the neighborhood. You know, so many times people have great plans for others, but they don't actually experience what we're experiencing. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that the engineers come and drive our neighborhood at different times of the day. Yes, it's a change, so we all have to get used to the change. Yes, it's essential. Like Mike said, his house has gotten hit. My mom's house has gotten hit. We've been here over 50 years, and it has gotten hit on that corner. Our fence is still like that. The insurance company refuses to continue to replace the fence for years. So we all have issues, right? Safety is important, but please just come into the neighborhood and drive the neighborhood. Snow removal never happens on that stretch of around the sidewalk around Stanley Bellevue Park. It is never shoveled, and people use that as a walkway all the time, every day, and it gets beaten down by their footprints because the city never removes the snow. So just bear that in mind, in addition to what others have said about the plow. Narrowing
Absolutely.
the street at that curve and across from Mike and Mike's house and the Stanley Street. Yes, I agree we need something, and I'm not objecting. I'm just asking that the amount that is extended out, that you actually come and see, because it will narrow the road. And we do have trucks, we have school buses, we have all kind of big vehicles, we have Amazon Prime every day. We have UPS trucks, FedEx trucks. I mean, big vehicles that come. So I'm not saying that I object. I just have a concern about how much the road will be narrowed because of it being two-way. And
yeah, absolutely, Dee Dee. And I just want to emphasize.
So to say that, we're acquiescing, we're getting a one-way. No, we're getting a safety neighborhood, because when Stanley Street was made one-way, it wasn't a group thing, because we actually wanted Bellevue Street one way, and then all of a sudden Stanley is one way. So we're all in this together to make sure that we are safe, that our concerns are heard and met for everybody,
Absolutely. And I just want to underscore that everyone who is responsible for designing this project goes to the neighborhood many times during the process. So we've been there on foot, we've been there on car. We'll be going back at different times of day, different parts of the year. We do really visit these areas and think critically about what the design choices are going to be based on that and the feedback that we hear from you. So I really appreciate you bringing this up. And again, thank you. And we will definitely take it
Thank
into
you for all your
consideration.
work. Thank you. Like I said before, I started off thanking you and I'll end by thanking you because it's not easy to consider everybody's requests and to have to go by code and sidewalks and with the streets and all of that. So thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Absolutely. So I just want to very quickly go into what's next. So last time we talked about, we want to make some changes to make the crossings safer on Hancock Street. We will talk about that more in our next meeting, which we'll schedule and let everyone know about. Given that it's 8:18, I think you can understand why we tried to keep the number of things to discuss tonight pretty small. So we'll be coming back to talk about Hancock Street. We'll also be coming back to talk about what Marty put in the chat about flex posts. So we will definitely talk about that in the next meeting as well. And as Hannah said, these plans they can still change. So we very much appreciate all the feedback that you've given us tonight. This information will be put online on our website. You'll be able to download it, share it with your friends, rewatch the meeting, live out the greatest moments of tonight, however many times you want. We also offer office hours. Those are 15-minute appointments with either Dan, Hannah, or me. And we can answer your questions in a one-on-one basis, get into a little more detail. Obviously, you all are very good at being in touch with us by mail, email, and phone. Feel free to continue that. We definitely want to hear from everyone in the neighborhood. And we really appreciate everything that you can do to share with your neighbors and tell them about this program and the designs. We do our best to try to reach as many people as possible, but there's nothing like your neighbor telling you, hey, this thing's going on, to get someone involved. So thank you in advance for doing that for us. This slide is similar to what we showed last time. I've just updated it to let you know that we are in this engineering study phase. So we are confirming what we can build, we're getting your feedback, and we're making changes before we go to final design. As I mentioned previously, we're really hoping to wrap up the final design in 2022 and hand it off to the contractor to start building. Obviously, we can move slower if people want us to move slower. I find that people generally want us to move faster with this program. So we're doing the best that we can. We do have a backlog of zones that we need to be building. We were supposed to build 9 this year, and we only really got to 4 or 5-ish. So you'll be put behind those zones, but we're moving forward and getting everything lined up so that we can deliver safe streets for you as soon as possible. And here's just the information on how to stay in touch with us. This is our website, boston.gov/slow-streets/Hancock. You can sign up for email updates. You can check out the latest information. Hannah just put the link in the chat for you. You can also sign up for those office hours to make that 15-minute appointment and get into the details with us. That link Hannah's also going to put in the chat, and you'll also see it on the mail that arrives at your house. You'll see it on our website. You'll be able to do that. You already know our email address because we get a lot of great emails from everyone. That's slow.streets@boston.gov. Or you can leave a voicemail with Hannah and we'll get back to you. So please, thank you all for coming with us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we look forward to talking with you again very soon. Good night.